good late afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Holly and you're watching 𝐃𝐤𝐿 TV live from Sydney. This is the last show of the day, the last trade. And there's no better way to wind down the day than with today's market close commentary. So let's dive straight in. Australian shares closed higher today with the benchmark index, the ASX 200, scaling new highs during the session. The market was supported by gains in mining and energy stocks led by BHP, Rio Tinto and Woodside Petroleum. However, concerns over the rapidly spreading Delta variant of the coronavirus in Sydney, the country's biggest city, dented market sentiment. The ASX 200 added 28.70 points or 0.38% to settle above the 7,500 level. Earlier today, the equity benchmark opened higher and gained as much as 0.5% to hit a record high of 7,509.2 points. Among the individual stocks, investment management firm Omni Bridgeway topped the gainer list by rising 5.87%. On the other hand, gold miner Chalice Mining emerged as the top laggard with a 5.5% loss. Next up, let's see how the sectoral indices performed today. 8 of the 11 sectors ended in the green zone, led by the mining and energy sector. The materials sector emerged as the biggest gainer, rising 1.3% on a spurt in commodity prices. The energy index also settled with a 1% gain, followed by AREIT, utilities, consumer staples and financials. IT also extended the rally for the third session on sustained rallies in the BNPL stocks. On the flip side, however, the healthcare sector was the worst performer with a 0.5% loss, followed by industrials, which dropped 0.2%. Material stocks dominated the market today, reversing previous session losses. The gain in the materials space was driven by gains in the index heavyweights, BHP Group, Rio Tinto and Fortescue Metals. And within the banking pack, 3 of Australia's big 4 lenders, Westpac, Commonwealth Bank, ANZ, ended higher, and National Australia Bank ended lower with marginal losses. In this segment now, we'll shift our focus towards stocks that created a buzz today. First up, gold miner Resolute Mining jumped as much as 0.6% on a deal to sell its Bibiani gold mine. The company has entered into an agreement to sell its Bibiani gold mine in Ghana to Canadian explorer Asante Gold Corp for $90 million. The agreement has been approved by the Ghanaian Honourable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, with completion expected in 10 days. The deal comes after China's Shifeng Geelong Gold Mining in April cancelled on an agreement to buy the Bibiani mine. Up next, Pinnacle Investment shares jumped 9.75% to hit a record high of $14.96 after its full-year earnings beat estimates. The net profit of the company jumped 108% in the financial year 21. The basic earnings per share was 38.2 cents, up 103% from 18.8 cents in last fiscal. The investment management firm has also declared a fully franked final dividend per share of 17 cents, up 100% from the financial year 2020 final dividend of 8.5 cents. Moving on now, and shares of Pharmaxis rose over 5% after its drug showed positive results. The clinical stage drug developer has presented data from its preclinical study of PXS5505. Preclinical trials have shown that its cancer drug can improve the efficacy of current chemotherapy drugs. Data was presented at the Liver Cancer Center at the American Hepatopancreabiliary Association Conference in Miami, United States. Now, before we move on to the shares that are in the news today, it's time for a short break.
Tune in to get the latest information.
Whether it's about market movements or the currency graph,
Sectoral coverage or industry news.
we cover it all on our news segments.
Be on top of the latest news
With 𝐾𝐤𝐚 TV. Welcome back, I'm Holly and you're watching 𝐾𝐤𝐚 TV live from Sydney. This is the last show of the day, the last trade. Next up, the stock price of surveying services company Veris dropped nearly 3% today. The company's wholly owned subsidiary Aquara Technologies has been awarded numerous work packages by BHP, Western Australian Iron Core. The overall program of work is likely to total $3.7 million. And internet and telecom service provider Swoop Holdings saw its shares surging over 11%. The company has secured a $5 million contract with Oro Group. It's a 5-year contract to provide NBN Enterprise Ethernet services across Western Australia. The company has obtained the contract via its wholly owned subsidiary Node 1. And next up, shares of furniture retailer Nick Scali declined after gaining as much as 5% in an intraday trade. The company that retails and imports furniture posted a 100% growth in underlying net profit after tax for the financial year 2021. Sales revenue rose by 42% in the financial year 21, while gross profit margins increased to 63.5%. compared to 62.7% in the prior year. Buoyed by robust earnings, the retailer declared a final dividend of 25 cents a share, bringing the full year dividend to 65 cents apiece. Despite reporting a surge in profits and revenue, the company did not provide any guidance for the upcoming year due to uncertainties created by the COVID-19 crisis. It said, however, that there was uncertainty in the retail environment due to lockdowns, which had impacted supply and also led to a rise in the global shipping costs. And moving on to the next big story, Afterpay shares fell amid a report that Westpac may review its alliance with the buy now, pay later major. The bank will examine its association with the payment solutions company after its $39 billion deal with the US fintech Square. The deal is expected to close in the first quarter of the year 2022, subject to requisite approval. Afterpay had entered into an agreement with Westpac to launch an app-based no-fee deposit account, paying 1% interest. It plans to launch Money by Afterpay in October this year, in which Westpac will be a banking partner, providing banking services to its customers. The BNPL giant has secured an Australian financial services license from the Australian Securities and Investments Commission to offer general financial product advice and distribute basic deposit products and debit cards. Next up, the share price of Centuria Industrial REIT rose as much as 2.07% after reporting strong earnings. The profit rose multiple times during the financial year 21, driven by transformative acquisitions and major portfolio raising. The trust profit zoomed over 700%, while the revenue jumped more than 400%. The earnings were driven by acquisitions which contributed $149 million of its total valuation gains. In the financial year 21, it signed contracts to acquire 18 high-quality industrial assets worth $966 million. Despite a rise in earnings, however, its total distribution for the year was 17 cents per unit, down from 18.68 cents in the year prior. The earnings were driven by acquisitions and major portfolio leasing. Now, before we look at the Asian markets, it's time for another short break.
Hi there, James Preston for 𝐾𝐤𝐚 TV. Are you into gaming and virtual reality? Does AI and the endless possibilities it entails capture your interest? Or are you constantly trawling through the web to try and discover the latest updates and innovations in the tech space? Well, let us do the work for you. From the latest product launches to shocking affairs on the World Wide Web, exclusive interviews and information about the top companies like Apple and Google to brand new tech startups vying for your attention. 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐞 Beat has the latest in what matters in the world of technology. Join me every single Monday on the Tech Beat, exclusive to 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐳 TV.
Welcome back, I'm Holly and you're watching 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐳 TV live from Sydney. This is the last trade. Now in our next segment, a look east towards the Asian market performance. The Asian markets were trading mixed as investors digested various US economic data. The comments from a Federal Reserve official that the US Central Bank may roll back its stimulus program also left investors jittery. The persistent concerns over rising cases of the Delta variant in the region also rattled confidence. Hong Kong's Hang Seng was down 0.2% as China's regulatory curbs on technology, fintech and education sectors continue to weigh on the market. The Straits Times Index in Singapore was down 0.2% as well, while South Korea's Kospi dropped 0.35%. In a similar fashion, India's BSE Sensex also traded marginally lower in the opening trades, while Taiwan's weighted stock index traded lower by 0.15%. Bucking the trend, however, Japan's Nikkei rose 0.4%, while China's Shanghai Composite traded higher with marginal gains. Moving on now from Asia to the US, and American stocks ended lower amid broad selling on fears about tapering of bond purchases and weak jobs data. The S&P 500 and the Dow Jones ended lower, while the Nasdaq Composite closed flat. Bucking the trend, shares of the buzzy stock trading app Robinhood witnessed a wild rally by surging of over 80% and triggering multiple trading halts on major exchanges. The rally in the stock, which recently got listed, was triggered by a multi-million-dollar investment from Wall Street's renowned tech investor Cathie Wood. In the last segment of this show, let's have a look now at the crypto market performance. The cryptocurrency market witnessed bullish trends on Thursday as traders responded to the short-term oversold conditions to make quick gains. Although persistent regulatory concerns in the US and China restricted the up move. Bitcoin, the world's largest cryptocurrency by market cap, was currently quoting up at around 4%. The most popular crypto is hovering at around the $40,000 level for a week. Meanwhile, the price of Ether, the world's second largest crypto, rose 8%. And other digital currencies like Dogecoin, XRP and Cardano were also trading higher. In a fresh development, the chair of US Securities and Exchange Commission, Gary Gensler, has appealed to Congress requesting more regulation of cryptocurrency platforms, calling the current crypto market the Wild West. Gensler told a global conference that the crypto industry is filled with fraud, claiming there are currently many coins that aren't even registered. This makes them susceptible to price manipulation, leaving millions of investors potentially open to suffering the negative consequences of such fraud. Well, that is just about all for now in the last trade. With our existing operations in Australia, New Zealand, the UK and Canada, 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐳 Media has launched its operations in US markets as well. Every day on our first show, the Global Market Roundup, you can get the latest and most important news from the US, Europe, Asia and Pacific markets. So on that note, I'll see you tomorrow at 10 AM live from Sydney. Holly Shields signing off.